Hello everyone, it's our new video for Real Chess channel and we'll be discussing today's game of World Championship match. We were trying at first to do recaps of all the games. As you see, we skipped some of them just because games were not that interesting. The quality of this match, as you can probably see, is definitely not the best. Players making a lot of mistakes. Yesterday Ding lost the game. It made Gukesh a very big favorite on winning a World Championship match. Ding played very badly, and what I'll say is that in the game of Ding it was something similar that I consider a bit of mistake, not obviously talking in terms of the chess, but more psychologically. Ding played something similar that allowed this in the Ding's game. It was that he played with black. It was knight to3, d5, c4, d4, b4, c5 and e3. So very sharp line, very well done by Gukesh. It's a gambit, like you can take a pawn for free here with black, and that's it. But obviously Ding was not prepared, so surprise came to me. If you don't prepare, like if you play d4 and then after two moves you already don't know what to do and you're already surprised, so why do you play d4? Like, why on earth you'll go to this position, right? And today it was a little bit different. Gukesh knew something, definitely, but like he needs the draw. Like already when 3 games left, doesn't mean that you especially need to play for a draw, but kinda you should, because you should take as less risk as possible. Moreover, we see that what Gukesh could do today is to go to some Catalan position, like let's say knight f3, instead of playing d4. That's not bad move, don't get me wrong. Like chess, talking in chess language, it's fine. d4 is one of the main moves in this position, but you can play bishop e7, like transposing probably to the Catalan or like to b3 kinds of position. You could try to take, obviously at some point, that's not the best. c6, also probably transposing to one of the Catalan lines. But instead, the Gukesh prefers to hold d4, and just we'll see. So somehow again Ding was surprised. Often, to be honest, in this match, world champion is surprised. So that's another thing actually, right? Ding didn't surprise Gukesh in any of the games that they played. I mean, I don't remember that Ding were blitzing out the moves and his opponent was playing just like with 1 hour less on the clock. Obviously it was reversed. So in main line is a Catalan, is the one that is so well studied by all the grandmasters. Why don't you go there, Gukesh? It's so obvious, right? It's true that this is what Ding would expect from him, but I mean, Gukesh didn't play much unexpected stuff with black and never get surprised in any case by Ding. So I think that was better, but obviously, let's say Gukesh could have won this game or whatever, but the decision, I think it's a bit wrong in this case, right? So we continue. There was a castle, knight c6, and let's see, just until here, Gukesh or Ding, they both do fine. I mean, they don't do something really wrong. Let's say pawn takes, bishop takes, e5, that is theoretical position, and rook e1 was a move. So here once again, I'm a little bit surprised what happened to Gukesh in his preparation, because Ding here, you can't see the time, but Gukesh is 30 minutes up, like Gukesh barely spent time. But here he spent 15 moves. I think if you play this line, you probably should. I mean, rook e1 is one of the obvious moves. It's even first line of the engine. It's not that like Ding specially tried to dissuade his opponent from the theory. He played rook e1 and okay, 15 minutes here, h6. So kinda, it's not something wrong. It's fine. But again, it shows that it was something weird with Gukesh preparation, because suddenly he started to think. I didn't watch the press conference, so. Chat and comments if he said something interesting about this situation. But if we look at position, right, already here after move 10, what do we see? Is black lost or worse? Probably not at all. But there is a play. There are a lot of pieces in the board. The factor that definitely favors the player who wants to play for a win. There is some pressure against the5 pawn that I found a little bit uncomfortable. This like kind of Sicilian style or Philidor style position where someone attacks this pawn. And yes, this 3 pawn is weak as well, but we'll see later that white usually, I mean, it's easy to defend this pawn. Like you just need to go queen c2, rook d1. I mean, there's no one will take it. And in general, it's not even symmetrical pawn structure, right? If this pawn would be an e4 or an e3, let's say, and bishop here, that is much better for Gukesh in terms of his tournament strategy. It's true that he always fight it. He very good players in dynamic position. I noticed that in positional chess he somehow doesn't perform well. And I know you can say that, like, I mean, you're a FIDE master, like, what are you saying, etc. But, you know, it's like in football, you don't need to be a professional football player to see that one of the players doing wrong thing, alright? So here it's the same. Let's say it's a famous game where, like, Vladimir Kramnik in his podcast was blaming players. I think it was game number 5 or 6, I think number 6, where they didn't understand, moreover Gukesh, some basics, and luckily get into draw. And so, like, once, even yesterday game, as you remember, Gukesh played very strong until preparations, and once Dink avoided it in first move, after thinking 1 hour, Gukesh played a wrong move and ended up a little bit worse, right? So positionally it's not, he's very, very strong calculator, as that's what we know, but positionally he doesn't perform well, so he goes in this playable position where there's almost zero tactics, like nearly zero. And it's all positional. White can pressure for free. Look at this strong bishop on g2. I mean, engines hold this position, but I mean, Gukesh not an engine, Magnus no one who is an engine. Like, there's just something better that you can do. So a3 was played. Idea of move a3 is to play b4 and create the pressure here, so black stops it with move a5. That's pretty obvious. h3. So some of you who starts just to play chess, they might think, like, why is that slow play? Because in general, since there are no tactics, no something crazy, you can kinda allow yourself, sip a glass of wine, even in the position. And then, I mean, continue playing. Idea of h3, you don't need to rush in this kind of position. You stopping move bishop g4. That will be annoying. In terms of black, probably will want to trade some of the pieces. Also, his bishop doesn't have many good squares. You can say, wow, how is it possible? Like, we can go to f5, and this is a brilliant square. It's more or less fine, but then maybe d4 can happen, so white can exchange these 2 weak pawns, but now it's coming with a tempo, and it's not clearly what to do after, let's say, pawn takes, bishop takes. You know, there is symmetrical structure, but very big initiative for white. I would say, like, some queen b3 can come, this is hanging, some tactics appear, let's say, if you try to play c6, knight a4, some squares over here, definitely uncomfortable for black. So h3 doesn't allow this move. Also knight g4 sometimes can hit very uncomfortably with this bishop. So h3 is good move. Bishop goes to e6, king h2, very slow play. I mean, this move obviously is not the move that you need to play like 100% with white. But once again, no rush. He wants to see what Gukesh also will be doing here. Actually, it may seem like I'm a big fan of Dink. I mean, to be honest, I like his playstyle a bit more. Because positional chess, I like it in general a little bit more than the tactical play. But we'll see that it's one of the best games played by white in the match here. So rook b8. Rook b8, some of you can think that your coaches said, well, if we have a rook, it likes the open files, so why we put rook here, right? The point is that in some lines, this pawn might be hanging, so we remove rook from this kind of a danger. Let's say knight moves and bishop b7 is not possible. A prophylactic play as well. Queen c2, as we saw, the idea of queen c2 is suddenly bring rook here, and in general to develop rook e8, knight b5. Knight b5, it's another type of move when some of you probably might not understand, because knight is not going anywhere basically, but that's a very useful move. So knight here controls d4. First of all, we have this idea of playing d4 at some point, obviously with white pieces, so it's prepared, and even though it doesn't look like, knight puts a lot of pressure on c7 pawn, so queen has to be careful a bit defending this pawn, and since this pawn moved from a7, this square becomes weak. There's no a6 any longer to throw the knight back. So that's why this is very strong. Bishop f5, okay move, rook ad1, very typical thing. And from here Gukesh started to play very strange, and here we come mostly to the, once again, for me, very wrong preparation of Gukesh. He plays knight d7. This move is bad. I mean, actually it's very easy to talk when you have an engine. To be honest, when I saw this move, I didn't think that it's like that worse, knights heading to c5. But the point is, in general, if you can find where is a good move here for black, it's quite hard to do so, because where are your pieces going? I mean, e4 is never an option. You always need to watch out for d4. This bishop doesn't have square, knight doesn't jump. all over, right? I mean, computer were suggesting idea of playing very passively, very slow, bishop f8, queen c8, basically waiting. This is to overprotect here, probably. This is to remove queen from the file. But yeah, that's very uncomfortable position to play with black. Moreover, with this time control, white can... Basically what happened at some point in yesterday's game, after being mistaken, Gukesh again had the favor hand, the upper hand, then you can do basically any move and you will not be much worse, let's say, with white. But wrong move from black and you get busted here, so that's the reason. Knight d7 is interesting idea. Knight or bishop heading to c5, and now those of you who are very strong players, like around to be titled, I'll suggest you to pause the video and try to find the next strong positional continuation for white in this position. Okay, and move was queen to d2. What's the idea of queen d2 here? It's not just removing a queen. I mean, basically, it's the main idea. We remove the pin, and now after move knight c5, the idea is to play a very strong move d4. I mean, to be honest, I would like, as you see, it's very strong play. Idea is to sacrifice the exchange. If knight d3, I mean, you can move the rook probably somewhere as well, like to play rook e2. I don't know what idea of Ding was here, but based on how strong he played, so you see he's in comfortable position for him, right? He likes to play these positional things. Here, d5 is not a calculation that you give up in exchange, it's just something that you need to understand. D5 you go, okay, if knight has to go where, it's knight's trapped, it doesn't have any good square, so probably knight takes e1, then you take back, probably with the queen is the best. So now knight has to be moved. And actually only square is to go is to give up the pawn, because there are no other square variables we set for the knight. And then white simply takes it, like without complicating the life, and we reach this position. The problem also here, yeah, very important, I mean, even this position without pawn and hanging, that now you can take it, and suddenly white has too many pawns. White has like 2 pawns in exchange for the, 2 pawns, I mean, for the exchange, very strong center, just, I think it's a practical point winning position. Engines were around 0.5 here, but by practical, it's once again, it's hard to find a move for black here. But even without falling pawn on a5, probably it was very comfortable for white to play. So that's what probably Gukesh missed, and that he spotted it right here, because now to play move bishop g6, he spent it around 30 minutes in this moment. So queen d2 very strong. It's true that what I was supposed to say before I showed you, very strong, yeah, but to be honest, I would prefer Ding to play like this all the match, because now he kinda forced to create something to be active, because he's losing the match. Okay, not any longer, but at moment of this game. So queen d2 is a typical move that I would like him to find in the more normal situation when match is equal. But what he was doing is just running for draws game by game and have fear in his blood. So bishop g6, that's a bit strange move, because I think what black have to be doing here is to go knight c5 anyway, like knight c5. I mean, there was lines that computer were calculating some e4s, and I understand that, let's say, d takes, pawn takes, it's still just a pawn down. At least you're playing the game. But very hard already, very hard to find a good move once again. I mean, computer suggesting a4, like for what? I mean, d4, and the white's already crashing. So bishop g6, I can understand under the pressure. d4 anyway played, Ding plays very fast and strong from this moment. So e4, knight g1. Now you'll see that knight on g1, it's not just something necessary because after knight here it can fall the pawn, but mainly because knight is heading to f4 square, sometimes can go with c3, and will become very active. Knight b6. Okay, this move, we know that Tartakover said once that knight on b6 is a bad piece almost always, I'll agree. Okay, he said always, to be honest, but I agree with him. But once again, if not, like, I mean, here you at least try to play 4, you try to attack something. This knight anyway has to hold somewhere, since you already can't hold to c5 because of strong d4 move. Okay, you need to do something, so knight b6 is fine. Queen c3. Queen c3 again, that's a typical move that you can play, just defend the pawn. I just must say that according to engines, queen e2 was better, but once again, I mean, that's... I mean, it was kind of equal, but queen e2 is very unnatural, right? So queen c3 I like with a practical point of view. And now starts something strange. So we see Gukesh plays bishop f6. this move by itself is kind of acceptable. Only problem that knight e2 will be happening here, and knight f4, so he doesn't do nothing against it, and we'll see now, after queen c2, there was no need, by the way, to remove the queen. You can play knight e2 simply here, but, well, I mean, he moves it fast and makes the pressure. Then a4, again, you can see that, like, what is Gukesh doing? White is punishing you here in center, and you play such moves, but okay, you need to do something once again. The pieces, look at this position, it's +1, but where you move your pieces? The knight doesn't have any move forward, other knight doesn't have any move forward. This bishop can go here where he can get kicked out, even, or like, even anyway knight e2, and then g4, knight f4. This bishop, I mean, you cannot move here. So a4, knight e2, and bishop g5. So yeah, that looks strange. You play bishop f6, now you play bishop g5. Gukesh trying to do some simple things that we learn in all the strategical books. So guys, when you're wars, you lacking of space, try to trade at least some pieces. So it's like, you know, as example, when you have a room full of people, like probably it's not enough air for everyone, right? It's too hard to breathe sometimes and very hard. So if you trade, if you remove some people from the room, right? If you trade some pieces, so you have more available squares for your pieces because you have less pieces than before. So all of them can be comfortably placed. And knight f4, obviously you can't avoid trade as you're ding, but you say, well, first of all, you trade on my terms, you need to give up your bishop pair. And even though you do, first of all, I have bishop pair, and except of this, the pressure here, the bishop becomes a monstrous piece on the board, controlling almost everything. So rook c8 is forced, because pawn was foring this already, I mean, lost even on my level, I believe. I can beat any international master or something like that, because it's easy to play. Bishop pair, one advantage, center, second advantage, weak squares, weakness here for black, like, it's a nightmare. So queen c3, once again, no rush, right? You can play other thing here, I mean, d5 straight away was very strong, but you don't rush, you asking black what he can do, and here probably was last moment where Gukesh could have done something better. Once again, those of you who have a little bit more level, try to pause the video and find the best move for black. Yeah, the move was f6. A bit hard at first, but okay, once again, if not what else, definitely not what was played, because knight b8 is like a move half to resign. We'll see now what was the idea. So f6, first of all, after d5, you now have e5 square, since pawn is protecting it, because without pawn, I mean, bishop just takes. And also you can reposition bishop somehow here, in some occasions can be useful. So knight b8 and d5 was played. Some of you might ask, like, is it not free rook? Actually, after this, it's fine to play. You have big advantage again, but okay, you trade the very strong knight for rook that is not doing nothing, right? I saw one interview of Garry Kasparov that said, well, sometimes he was not like calculating by trading knight per rook or sacrificing rook per knight. So he see, well, first of all, we don't sacrifice a piece, we exchange a pair of pieces, right? One for another. So in this term is equal, and he said it's true that maybe in the end my rook will be stronger, but let's say in this particular position you can see who is better at the moment, right? The knight or the rook, and obviously the knight is stronger in this position. It's true knight a7 is fine, if Dink would go for it, it's a solid continuation, like you get an exchange for free and you're happy. You just take exchange and you believe that you will win, it's something to secure your result. But d5 is more stunning, I mean, you don't need the rook. The rook is doing 0, and knight's pressuring here, supporting d6. This knight is very, very strong. So queen d7 was played, another awful move to be honest, but okay, like people say, right, in the bad positions there are no good moves. But looks strange, I mean, you play this first, and then only logical square you have, you play queen d7. Yes, it's true that you can go here, but okay, what is this? There are some ideas of this kind can be, still queen is not going anywhere far from this rook situation. d6, another strong move by Ding, but once again here it's already easy. He could play other thing and still win the game. So d6, c5, knight c7. Now we can target the rook, and you can say, well, what changed now? So now we definitely improve. I mean, now we can trade it already. This pawn become even more vulnerable. So there are more weaknesses even in position. The d5 square becomes weak. Like white continues and continues pressuring. The rook f8. Also Gukesh understands if he is busted in position, sacrificing rook will not help in this point. Maybe he'll last longer, but the game, I mean, but yeah, you still, if now you have a chance that Dink will misplay something very huge he needs to misplay, but okay, he does it and you're winning, without exchange it will be even harder. So rook f8 is fine, bishop e4, extra pawn for white. I mean, from here there is not much more to say. Some moves, knight d5 takes, and very materialistic. I mean, you could definitely take with anything, with a bishop, with a rook. Okay, with a rook definitely it's worse, but with bishop, let's say, looks more better. And some of you might think, why this pawn takes capture, like it's a bit ugly, but actually it's just materialistic, because pawn on c5 falls. That is a simple reason. Knight has to go away, and queen c5. Also here Dink understands that his advantage is already that big that now he needs to exactly do what Gukesh also doesn't want to allow, is to collect some extra material. If something goes wrong in time trouble, he still has extra 2 pawns. But okay, if Dink doesn't blunder a piece like in previous game, like there's nothing can go wrong here. Rook c8, queen back to d4. Obviously Gukesh is playing. Some of you might ask why these guys continue playing, he's completely lost. I mean, it's logical, at least to arrive to the time control. So knight a6, rook e7. Also, again, like if you want to try, I mean, how you allow rook e7, that's another question. Like try rook e8, try to do something. Knight a6 is just some kind of a pinching back. So rook e7, queen b5, d7, rook c4, queen back, rook c2. It's some fake activity. Bishop d6, very strong move, targeting rook somehow. And okay, now decisive blunder of the game. f6 is played. That leads to the lose, according to engine. Knight b8 still was, but I mean, that's, what is this? It's like rook e8, you don't have any move with black here, like zero threats. Its game is lost, but okay, f6 just to see that it's easy blunder, kind of similar to piece blunder by Dink also, but okay, that situation Dink was under the pressure. Now Gukesh is as well, so the rook takes g7 and Gukesh resign. What's the reason? It's simple tactics. You take the rook, I take here, and I just have extra queen in this position. So game over. Actually, computer, you're saying that it's already a checkmate in this position. Checkmate in 6. So as we see, why I showed this game once again, not because I prefer Dink over Gukesh or something like that, just because this is a game where I think there were no obvious mistakes like in previous games, where you can see, let's say, some moves of Gukesh, let's say I didn't like, I saw like bishop g5 or some of these moves, that the bar goes down, but it was not like that obvious, why this move is that horrible, right? It doesn't look good, but what else, right? So there were not very bad moves by itself, I believe, that are obvious to even our point in previous games. In exchange, yeah, like some moves that, I mean, bishop e6, bishop 5, bishop e6, let's say in the game where Dink lost a piece, that was obvious for me. I looking the TV without looking the engine. I mean, I just see that you need to remove bishop before it gets trapped. I mean, and Dink doesn't see it, so this kind of mistakes surprised me a lot. And right, but here, I mean, and Dink played very strong, like without mistakes. Let's say yesterday the game was not that clean by Gukesh. He mistake a couple of times. Dink played horribly. This was more decent game, so this kind of games I want to bring to my viewers. And that's it. So now what happened, I saw that Gukesh was very disappointed. He almost cried after the game, things that I hardly understand, because, I mean, come on, like, Dink had more reasons to do it when he lost yesterday, because it was looking like sleep-away match. Now Gukesh, I think he's still favorite, because it's true that Dink probably better in rapid chess, but Gukesh, I think that was very important, is much better still in preparation, except of this game, let's say. He has more surprises, not always they are good, but also there are tricky kind of surprises that can give you slight advantage even for Dink. And then the question is if Dink will manage to find all the engine moves with 2 hours on the clock. In the rapid chess it's different. In the rapid chess Dink has 20 minutes, 15 even, it's 15 plus 10. So if Gukesh will manage to continue surprising Dink, he might have very huge advantage from the opening that will lead him to the win of the game. So I think that matters more a little bit, because I think the way of preparation of Gukesh is more better than this advantage that has Dink in the rapid chess over Gukesh. Was exciting game, 2 more left, 2 to go, and I hope you'll enjoy the match. We'll probably make some recap when match is over, or depends on the games that will be played. Maybe tomorrow will be, or other day will be some great games that we'll be able to watch. So stay tuned, guys. Please follow our channel, subscribe. It helps us to see that you like the content and what content should we do. And thank you for watching, and see you in next videos. Ciao!